Good evening and welcome. Please can someone confirm that you can hear me either with an emoji or you can state it in the chat box. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Okay, thank you, Adams.
I can hear you. Good evening, Shola.
Yeah, good evening, my deity. Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to say Happy New Year. Thank you for coming to class once again. We will give, as is our usual custom, about 5 minutes for our friends to join us, even as we are coming into class. I can see that we're putting our names as is our usual tradition. So thank you for joining us in 2025. This is our first class, and it's a pleasure to be here. I will be your moderator for this class. My name is Adeshola, and it's a pleasure to be here once again at the Electoral College Literacy class. So we will take the next 4 minutes to populate the class. Chairpersons of our city political parties, please let's do the work. Call on your team members, your party members, let them come to the class. We will start in 4 minutes. Thank you, and I will be back shortly to continue the meeting. Thank you. Okay, back as promised. It's 17:05, 5 minutes past the hour of 5 p.m. And as I know, the Electoral College, we are stickers for time. And so I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. We are about 67 and counting. So whilst I go through our facilitator's profile, I'm sure the numbers will keep increasing and then we will start in earnest in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Once again, I'd like to say a happy new year for those of us that were not here earlier when I give the greeting. It's good that we are all here and we give God all the praise for the opportunity to witness another year. It's the first class in 2025, and today we will be looking at media and information literacy. Media and information literacy, how to spot misinformation and disinformation. I'm sure you are quite aware that there's a difference between the two, misinformation and disinformation. Today, we'll be looking at how to spot the difference between these two nomenclatures, all under the umbrella of the topic media and information literacy. And to guide us on this interesting topic, which I believe will open up our eyes and keep us informed to be better citizens who engage meaningfully on social media and even otherwise. We have a facilitator today who is an accomplished fact checker and researcher at Dubawa, Nigeria. He has a degree in mass communication from the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He is also a distinguished fellow at the African Institute for Open Source Investigation, where he has contributed significantly to research on information ecosystems in Nigeria and West Africa, particularly in relation to information disorder. This fine gentleman possesses expertise in the use of fact-checking tools for verification, and he has conducted several consequential fact checks, earning him a nomination at the 2021 Africa Check Awards. He is a member of the WHO's Viral Fact Alliance and has debunked various COVID-19 related claims while actively participating in initiatives to provide explainers and media literacy articles during the pandemic. I think that is something that is really commendable. Well done, sir. Furthermore, he is an active member of the Nigerian Fact Checkers Coalition, NFC, where he has played an integral role in monitoring elections and debunking numerous electoral related claims. With his exceptional research skills and expertise in fact checking, this gentleman is an asset to the field of journalism and information verification in Nigeria and beyond. To take us on media and information literacy, how to spot misinformation and disinformation. Ladies and gentlemen, if your virtual hands are, would I say, not too tired, if your keypads are still functioning, please let's make welcome our facilitator this evening, Mr. Silas Jonathan, as he takes us on the topic. You are very much welcome, sir, and I'd like to hand over the virtual lectern to you. You're welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Adeshala. I mean, as for a moment, I thought that was wonderful welcome. I thought that I wouldn't need a New Year package from you. This is enough. Yeah. Now, all I need is a political party to contest on elections, as it will turn out to be. Well, it's always a pleasure to be here, and I'm really glad that each time we have this conversation, the outcome is massive, and I'm also looking forward to what we would gain out of here. As usual, I am certain that I am having this conversation with folks who are aware of the Nigerian polity and also outspoken in terms of issues that relates to that. So, I would need you of course, to share some of your thoughts as we have this conversation, because this is an issue that is affected and has affected so many people. So I don't want it to be something far off. I want it to be something that you can be able to share your own insights to. And that is why I wanted to start with this story, and because it's a personal story that has affected me as a person. Um, and each time I'm having a conversation that has to do with media literacy or information literacy, especially in terms of information disorder, this story resonates with me. And uh, as you would know, you would quite remember in 2014 when not COVID-19 actually, Ebola virus first came into Nigeria. It was a big thing, because nobody really knew what it was and how it was working. And everybody then wanted to get an answer to how can I protect myself? How can I protect myself? And it was in this conversation that salt and water narrative came into the context. And there my mom called me and said, hey, you should take salt and water. And I was in school then, and I convinced my roommates. We took salt and water for almost a week. Um, and we didn't die, But I always say if I have diabetes or anything related to salt issues, I would relate it back to that. But this uh, month later, when we found out that it wasn't supposed to be salt and water and all of that, I felt really disgraced, and I never talked about it until recently when I had the balls to talk about it. So, but this tells you why information literacy, it's very important. It's almost like a minor term. People call it MIL. But knowledge is like torchlight. It casts light where there is darkness. And if you don't know, then you wouldn't take a good decision. I mean, like I did, took a bad decision. So when we are having this conversation, think around it. And subsequently, I would like to hear one or two people, just share in the context of what we are discussing. Sorry, I don't want to open my video because I've been struggling with network. I would prefer you hear me very well, and I can hear you too. Yeah. So this is the topic, like Adeshala has wonderfully introduced, media and information literacy and how to spot myths and disinformation. But let's go right into it. Yep. Okay. So, I mean, we know that uh, in the 60s, 70s, and even early 80s, when military governments want to take over, they want to do their coups and all of that. First thing they do is to take and grab a hold of radio stations or the television. This is important because he who owns the source of information almost owns the power to convince. And that's why it's so crucial then. But then something, with the digital age and the evolution of information dispensation, almost any Tom, Dick, and Harry can just control a lot of followers and share any kind of narrative they want. I mean, I am on TikTok currently, and sometimes when I scroll through, I'm like, how does this person have 200,000 followers? I mean, and the content is nothing, and you see a lot of comments. I'm like, what is the magic? I mean, and but it just tells you um, the irony of the society that we're in. That now you don't need to be a journalist. You don't need to know how to. You just need to have a phone, and this democratization of information through the digital space, although has made it very easy for people to communicate, has also made it very difficult for people to be able to select good information from bad information. And and it is like I always say it's like when you're given free bag of beans, but then half of it is bad, but then you have to separate good one and from bad one. Yeah, you have a big bag of beans, but you also have the work to select which one is good and which one is bad. It's tough. And so that's a problem. We have a lot of information, but then we also have bad information, you know, and that is why this presentation hopes, to equip us with just the essential skills to be able to have that feeling, to be able to have that decision making to say, I think this is not, this is fake. I think this is not true. I just to understand the context of the conversation. And it is important because, I mean, we are literally talking about electoral college. That means that democracy is the number one factor for us, even in this conversation. And as in subsequent conversation, you would see how mis and disinformation even has some threats to democratic standards. I would like to ask this question, and please, anybody can just jump right into it. These are not new terms. Who can just I'm not going to show you my slide. I'm gonna hear from you first. Who can just quickly give us uh, um, an introduction into um, mis this malinformation? Who can quickly
Okay,
give us that?
Silas, would you want
Yeah,
them to speak or put it in the chat box? Which would you
yeah.
prefer?
So they would raise their hand, and you would just choose. You would monitor who rose the hand
Okay.
first,
Okay,
then
select.
you give them the mic to quickly speak. Yes, that would do.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, yeah, yes. I see Kolajo Ajayi. Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, who can give us a definition of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation? Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands yet. Okay. Please can we, Jessica, could you help me unmute?
Okay. Um, Ajayi. You can unmute and answer.
Okay, good evening. Thank you very much. Misinformation and disinformation are similar in that it is when incorrect or inaccurate information is spread, but the difference between them would be the intention behind them. In misinformation, the inaccurate or incorrect information is spread unknowingly, and the intent is not to deceive people intentionally, but in disinformation, the intention is to deceive whoever the information is being given to. It's just to like deceive them intentionally and to make them form a belief as a result of that information.
Okay.
Wow. Oh yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, I'm taking notes here.
Should I unmute Omo Jevoy? You can go ahead, sir.
Yes, let's get her to speak. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. And just like the way the previous speaker said, disinformation is a false, wrong information, which with the intention of deceiving somebody or deceiving the general public. That's just my little knowledge about it.
It doesn't seem so little to me. Let's have Stephen think Stephen just spoke now. We can have Stephen and then quickly Favor, and then we move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Um, so going by the semantics, misinformation is giving like how I understand it, giving misleading, like with the intent of is giving information that is probably fabricated with with the intent of misleading people. Disinformation is maybe not providing enough information, and malinformation can be like giving information but not enough, like malnourished. Yeah, going by the semantics once again. Thank you very much.
Okay. Then we have Favor. Favor, you can unmute. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Hello.
Yes, we
absolutely,
can.
absolutely.
Okay. When you talk about misinformation, I think misinformation is can refer to a misleading information that is deliberate. It's like a deliberate act, that is spread. It's deliberate. You intentionally planned it and act on it to ensure that it's spread. Why, when we talk about misinformation, we can say they interchange anyway, but I don't think misinformation might not really target a particular, it might not be intentional, but it's more like information that is spread, just like it's not planned. That's just it.
Well, thank you very much. Sekiru, I would hear from you subsequently, but um, very good points that we have raised in this conversation. I think these are brilliant conversations that we have pointed out. Of course, misinformation, it's not a deliberate, it's it's not deliberate. It's a kind of information that someone sends out without any ill intention. For example, when my mom sent me, say, go take salt and water, mean, she wouldn't want to kill me, but I took salt and water. So the information she gave me was not ill, like all of you have explained so well. And then this information, of course, it's organized. In Uganda, certain private universities, students do not want to resume early, and they just organized sort of got pictures of snakes, and they just started saying that there are snakes in the hostels, and nobody wanted to resume, and I think they delayed resumption for almost a month. This is a deliberate, because there is an end goal, there is a plan, and it's usually organized. Um, I've seen situations where some women are targeted in politics using, some targeted disinformation just to reduce their chances. But malinformation, I mean, the semantics really do form part of what you're saying. I like that you said semantics. It really, semantics plays a lot of role in the definition. Malinformation is an information, sort of a misleading information that lacks complete context, and it is usually shared to tarnish someone's image, or reputation. For example, we see a lot of that, especially these days on Twitter, where people's private videos or even phone calls are being shared. The goal mostly is to tarnish their images, to make them look unwanted in the society. People do that usually to popular people or to organizations. And if in a normal way, malinformation can serve as what Nigerians call you will explain tire no evidence. That kind of situation where, when I was growing up, there was an uncle in my area who said I should go buy him cigarette. And when I bought the cigarette, I was just turning and I clashed with my Sunday school teacher, and she saw me with the cigarettes. So she just saw me and she just left quietly. Her assumption was that, I'm gonna smoke the cigarette. And you see that she doesn't have the context. She didn't ask me for full context. And when I went tomorrow, I saw that when I went the next day to church, she was telling everyone that, oh, she saw me with cigarette. I mean, I've started smoking cigarette. So you see, it is a true information that she saw me with cigarette. And, it has something on my personality around that point. So malinformation might not necessarily be misleading, but if the intention is to tarnish someone's image and has no full context, then that is malinformation. And there's some examples subsequently we'll talk about. And all of these are interconnected. And how are they? Because they can change. They can change into different factors. That's why I like this depiction. Because someone might, like for the example of salt and water, someone might have deliberately cooked this information of salt and water to mislead people, but you could see that it had changed to misinformation when good people started sharing to other good people. That's why this information is in the middle, because it can be used for this malinformation. It can also be used for misinformation. So it means that the source of misleading information in most contexts starts from disinformation. It starts from disinformation, and then when it travels down, you see it evolves into misinformation or evolves into malinformation. Further conversation is, but why is it important? When we look at this conversation, we are having this conversation in electoral college. Folks are sharing their views. The question now jumps up: why is this conversation even important? Why should we have this conversation of spotting mis and disinformation? Why is it important? These are my 3 points, but each time I come here, I want people to also share their own idea. The one I have here is to preserve democracy. For you to vote the best candidate, for you to take the right decision, you need to have the right information. If there is a lot of myth and disinformation about a particular candidate, it will make you lose trust in the person and even alter your decision. We had a protest sometime in August where there was a lot of myth and disinformation fueling people to do some horrible things on the streets, even changing the ideology of what the protest was about. It could threaten democracy. Another thing, like I said, promote informed decisions. And that's why there are debates. We bring candidates, they do debate. We want to make sure that we hear the person, and even now during debates, they bring fact checkers to make sure what the person is saying is true, because we need to know we're making an informed decision. If I knew that taking salt and water would be bad, I would have taken an informed decision and say, hey, let's not take that. And then another thing is to mitigate harm. Sometimes some narratives have real world consequences. Um, and a good example is when someone would say, hey, they're killing social people here. And then you see there is a retaliation. There is a narrative that a lot of the killings that is happening in North Central, Middle Belt, has been mostly due to this kind of misinformation. Disinformation. Someone would say they're killing some people there, and then you'll see this one, they would retaliate, and it just keeps going into circles. But then I see that Secure wanted to say something the other time. Do you want to add to some of why it is important for us to be able to spot myth and disinformation? And I'll also take two hands. So the earlier, the better. First come, first serve. I have Skiru already who wanted to talk earlier, and I will take two other people to share their voices here, because I think that we are all pro-democracy here, and so it's very important we get to share more ideas. Good, I have Umar. Already have Sekiru, unless if no longer interested in sharing a voice. So yeah, Omar. Yes, Omar can go ahead.
Okay, I've asked him to unmute. Umar, I've asked you to unmute.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir, Mr.
Omar.
Silas. Thank you very much. My name is Umar Abubakar Sadiq, APC from Kaduna State. It's very important, because this is the first I'm understanding this, that actually this information is the root say the misinformation, disinformation, the malinformation is hydra-headed. But then the root of the hydra head is disinformation, and which means if you must kill misinformation and malinformation, you must approach what the hydra, which is what disinformation. Beautiful. Having said that, I want to corroborate what we've learned in our previous class on psychology of politics led by the ED himself. You just highlighted three importance to sport about mis and disinformation to preserve democracy and the rest. Now, I want to ask, will I say, not really a question, but I want to put it in this way. Can we say, or can we agree that antics, shenanigans by politicians during or before election, during the electioneering campaign process, all the antics and shenanigans, they intentionally carry out? Can we agree conclusively that this forms part of misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation? All right. So I just want to say that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Umar. Wonderful contribution before I hear from others. Absolutely. In fact, I was in Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone. I've been monitoring elections in Senegal, and your point is valid even across those places. I mean, you know that is the oldest trick in the book. You know, how can we use information to our own advantage? So yes, absolutely, 100%. I mean, I totally agree that, I mean, there are some instances we will discuss subsequently as how politicians have used information during elections, and I will share a lot of examples. So yes, Mr. Abubakar, that is very, very true. Yeah, it is, and I totally agree. Let's have Lucky.
All right.
Okay, Lucky.
Hello. Good evening.
Lucky, I've asked you to. Okay, who's that? Who's speaking?
Secure.
Okay, Sikiru.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, let's
Sikiru.
have him. Let's have.
Yes. Good evening, sir. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I just want to buttress what the last contributor had just said. So what I'm just about to add is just the disinformation most of these politicians have been spreading. So I think that has been the cause of a lot of issues in Nigeria. In summary, what I understand about misinformation is an unintentional spread of false information. So that's just what I want to contribute. That's what I want to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Secure, for sharing your voice in this conversation. Of course, I'm glad that you concur to what Mr. Umar Abakar has earlier said. I think it's a very important point, you know, and that is why before elections, you see that, you know, there is a dialogue, and this conversation is brought, political parties are brought together and say, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that. You know, it never works mostly, but yeah, you know, yeah. So let's have Mr. Lokimo Inyang, and then we close with Kolajo Ajayi, and then maybe if Samuel Obi wants to quickly say, then we go. So we start with Loki, and then we go Kolajo, and then quickly Samuel, then we move.
Right, please, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year again. I am so excited. I'm excited that as people who are leadership-minded, we get to discuss a topic like this because, you know, social media is now a very big thing. And it's good that we are aware of the fact that there are information out there that we should not just consume hook, line, and sinker. And also, it's important for us to know that politicians now use propaganda, you know, as a tool in politics. And it's not just in Nigeria, I mean the world over. So propaganda is now a very serious, very strong tool. Remember, there is one very popular guy on Twitter, in the Twitter space prior to the 2015 election, that was really using his Twitter handle against President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's administration so massively, saying things that were unverified and stuff like that. And I think he was being paid to do stuff like that. So we as people who are leadership minded, it's good that we are having this discussion to know that politicians have now incorporated propaganda as a tool to win elections. They discredit people just to present themselves as the people that should be voted in, when really they know they don't have what it takes. I know a whole lot of things were said about the candidacy of Peter Obi, but I love the way he keeps debunking it. Say, go and verify. Go and verify. And we as people who are leadership minded should start to shine the light of ensuring that we verify information before we put it out on our social media space. Because, I mean, we can go in for it. You can say things, look at, of course, we know what is happening now with the book and all of that. Yes, maybe he had his facts, but somebody is coming to say, no, your facts is to the extent to which you understood it. And it's at variance with my own facts. And then they are in court. So we have to be careful as young people, as leaders, prospective leaders. We need to be sure that we verify, we get full details and various perspectives before we put an information out there. So I'm really excited that we are having this discussion. And I want to thank the Electoral College again.
All right, thank you, Lucky. I think we lost you there. Thank you for your thoughts. I would move quickly to Coladro. Let's try as much as possible to keep it brief and concise because we still have slides to go through and more questions towards the end. Coladro, I've asked you to unmute, please.
Thank you very much. My opinion regarding the question would be that our facilitator has actually put a lot of things into all of the three reasons why it is important for us to deal with misinformation and disinformation. But from my own experience, I think it is important that we deal with the problem of disinformation and misinformation so that we would not teach the wrong history to the younger generation. Because while I was very much younger, I've actually been following the Nigerian political space for a while now. And most of the information that I've had access to, I have later discovered that I have either been misinformed or disinformed. And whether I like it or not, most of those things have formed part of my core beliefs. And it is also important that we deal with misinformation and disinformation, even in spheres of life. There are times that misinformations will cause unrest in communities, even in schools and everywhere around. So it's not just restricted to the political space. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Good points. I mean, I think we have one last person, then we move. Yeah, we'll just have the last person, then we move. Yeah.
Yes, Samuel. Thank you, Coladro. Samuel, I've asked you to unmute.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Don't know if you can hear me. Mine is that the information I find when tracking federal government constituency and consolidated capital projects, the level at which our politicians, our elite, or they just got to know that this project is going to be implemented. So I am putting it on the political elite that this defacing of federal government budget or budget line items is also misinformation. Then secondly, on their empowerment project, they always project higher numbers than what is actually being given to the people. For example, A lawmaker claims he has given 110 laptops. But when we track this project, we find out that the federal constituency has just 32 wards in the 3 local governments. And only 32 persons were given a laptop, which is 1 per ward. But he took, even the media, the mainstream media, took it on their newspapers that the lawmaker gave out 110 laptops. Meanwhile, only 32 could be verified, and the list, when we showed the lawmaker the list they used, he was silent, he couldn't respond to us anymore. So these are all channels of information being perpetrated by people who are supposed to be and distinguished. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much all for this wonderful contribution. It was Kolajo before Samuel who mentioned a lot about, misinformation can change ideology. And I'm glad that he was so honest to mention how some of his beliefs might have been altered by information that lacks truth. And thank you for saying that, Samuel. We've had situations where, and I'm glad that you followed up on that. There was a situation in, I think it was Nasarawa, where the official Facebook handle of the government house shared a road picture to a road they say they did, double lane, very big in a certain community. I went there, I paid money, I went there, and I found out that the road was so small, not as you were depicted on the picture. So when I put all these points that you mentioned, it means that we need to add more points to this. That one, it is important that it is important to spot mis and disinformation so as to hold those in power accountable, and as Kolajo said, so that people cannot build, believe, and ideologies based on false rhetorics. So wonderful points that we have raised, and you will see that subsequently, I mean, some of the consequences, because when we look at why, the consequences becomes even more evident. Some of the consequences of not being able to spot mis and disinformation is that one, misleading beliefs and confusion among individuals, similar to what Kalaja said earlier. It can damage the reputation and credibility of someone. Someone mentioned Peter Obi, say, go and verify, go and verify. And social media and political polarization. You've raised it even before I came here. Claims around elections. See how politicians are building up claims. I shared some 2 articles with you. Recently, I was in Ghana during the elections. And on Twitter, a certain group of people using fake Twitter accounts, I think almost 50 of them, started trending a particular hate hashtag against a particular candidate. It really caught a lot of people's attention, and gladly we were able to reach to Twitter, and they were able to stop it. Hashtag that was trending. Ahead of the elections in 2023, we did an extensive research where we find how political parties were using bots, fake accounts, bots. That's a professional term. I don't know what term to use it, but bots are like fake accounts that are automated using artificial intelligence. And these bots were the ones pushing a lot of hashtags, pushing a lot of narrative, and I think almost 2 million of them on Twitter then. I shared the article with you. So these are real issues, and that can bring polarization to our community, polarization to our society, where people even kill each other. The story of Rwanda in 1994. There was a man called Felicien Kabuga who was very rich and had a radio and television station. He was the one that was fueling this anti-Tutsi narrative, saying, they are our problem, they are our problem, they are our problem. And we know what a lot of people lost their lives during that. We've seen it even in Second World War. We're seeing it till today. How information misleading, is engineering those kind of hate and harm in our communities. Another thing is potential harm to public health and safety. During Ebola and COVID-19, I had a lot of narratives. People say if we take, there was one I say, if you walk naked in the night, COVID-19 won't get you. Or if you take garlic and drink with blah, 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 it wouldn't get you. There's one that say if you eat ewedu, if you eat ewedu, I wish that one worked anyway. That if you eat ewedu and amala, you wouldn't get it. A lot of narratives like that. A lot of people lost their lives. I remember during Ebola, people died mostly because they took salt water, not even because of Ebola. Yeah. So, but why is it that each time when mis and disinformation conversation comes up, it becomes a problem for people to even identify it? I'm glad that you mentioned politics. We know the antics of politicians. We know the antics of people who want to gain power by hook or crook. Why is it that we've never really been able to curtail it? One of the problem is the problem of confirmation bias. People just want to agree with things that align with their belief and do away with things that has nothing to do with them. So the factor of truth becomes nothing. So, for example, if I am a Labour Party person, even if it is whether the information is true or not, I don't even want to scrutinize it because it reinforces my pre-existing belief. In other words, my cognitive bias already thinks with the existing information, so I don't want to confirm it. You know, a lot of that. It's like that juicy text that you see people share and say, click this link to get 5,000 naira. People don't even want to say, is it true? They say, oh, the federal government is sharing 10,000 naira. And a lot of people are falling victim to that. So confirmation bias is one of the key things that, and it is so unique because we all have nuances of unique beliefs that is so tiny that sometimes you don't even, I mean, someone can just look at someone and say, I don't like you. You can imagine what informs that. So that is confirmation bias one of, and the thing about confirmation bias is that it has nothing to do with your educational level. That's why you can see someone that has the highest degree can just carry a bomb in his body and bomb people, or can carry a gun and kill people, or or can just do a lot of things, and you wonder how. So it's confirmation bias, and I usually want to ask. So I'm going to ask just two people, and I want you to be short and succinct because I'm looking at my time. I barely have 15 minutes, 13 minutes even. Um, when you look at this painting, what do you see? Drop it on the chat box. When you look at this painting, just you don't need to talk, just drop it at the chat box. Just tell me what you see. This, right? This person, this, what do you see? What do you look at it again? I'm gonna forward it in the next 1 minute. So you just tell me what you see, because we're moving to um what you see. So tell me what you see. Just drop it in the chat box. Look at it for one last minute. I'm gonna, yes. You see, confirmation bias, one of the good examples of this confirmation bias is that not seeking out objective facts. As far as it agrees with me, then fine. Interpreting information to support your existing beliefs. We have it. I have done confirmation bias before several times. I have. It's something I'm still fighting because it blinds your objectivity. What are the key steps, to being able to spot needs and disinformation? One of the key steps is to be able to verify the source. Verify the source. But how do you do that? You need to check the credibility of the reputation of the source. For example, me, when my mom said take salt and water, I should have checked World Health Organization website. Did they say this is the right thing? I should have browsed relevant and reliable news platforms. Is this information valid? I should have even called a doctor or my friend or someone that I know in medicine and say, please, how does salt and water cure um, uh, Ebola? Just to ask questions. You have to also look for signs of bias and hidden agendas. A good example is the situation I gave you in Ghana, where how can the same hashtag with the same users from almost the same location sharing the same information on the same polarized site? You need to ask why and how. Why is this happening now, and how is it happening? And cross-reference information. When someone sends you another information, try and recheck, check other platforms. You know, and because these are the only this point as one step is the only step that if it can help you to conquer confirmation bias. This particular step, and then give you a good example of how that played out. I remember sometime in 2021, there was a claim going around that the Chinese government have intercepted 7,200 human penises in China, male genitalia. The House of Reps came out and say, oh, we need to do something about it. Mutilation is not good, blah, blah, blah. One of the House of Reps members even put a bill out, wanted to put I think they call it bill, I think, I think something about mutilation. I mean, I wonder, there's been female genital mutilation for years. Nobody did anything about it. Suddenly it has to do with men, and the House of Reps are being helter-skelter, just on a mild note anyway. So, but yeah, I remember calling the House of Reps member and I was telling him, this information, we need to cross-check it. And he said, no, I mean, this is valid. It's everywhere on the news. And when I dug deeper, I found out that the information was from a satire websites, all these funny websites that just fabricate news just to make people laugh. There was even a disclaimer that people should not take any information from there seriously. But you could see what happened. And number two step is to examine the content, analyze the tone and language. When I read something, I try to ask, who is this person? Why is he writing like this? Or, for example, my cousin called me and say, hey, now they're giving free visa to Canada. I mean, he shared a link with me. He say all they needed was passport and then $500. I mean, and then I checked the link. You've seen this a lot number of times online. So sometimes we need to look at it, look for the sensational, exaggerated claims. There are some sensational claims, they will say, they're very sensational. They would say, oh, Nigerians from next year, fuel will become 120, like olden days. It's so sensational. I mean, where's the possibility? Assess if there are logical fallacies or inconsistencies, you know, like inconsistent. How can salt cure Ebola? I mean, I'm trying to understand. They classify the content. Is it video? Is it image? Is it audio? What are we dealing with? And what is the possibility that this can be fake, especially now with AI? Also look closely to our altercations. Weird and unusual facial expressions now so common with AI. Um, like this one, when Russia invaded Ukraine, this one became so popular. I mean, I see it on Twitter, people say Buhari is warning Vladimir Putin. People were sharing it on Twitter and Facebook saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. But someone just created it using an app that has free access for everyone. Another thing is the third most important thing is to evaluate supporting evidence. Determine if there are credible sources cited. Sometimes people say according to sources, they don't mention the sources, according to sources, according to sources. Who is the source? You need to also assess the quality relevance of evidence presented. Some people just crack numbers out of nowhere. Be cautious of cherry-picked and manipulated data. Someone will say Nigeria is the most corrupt country in the world. Where is the data? Who said it? How was it calculated? I mean, how was it? I mean, like this one. I mean, someone says that, look at it. Say if you eat ewedu, it cures COVID-19. I wish it was true, but it wasn't. I mean, where is the connection? Another thing is consider the context. That brings us to malinformation. Assess whether the information fits within the broader context. Like my situation, I wish, and to understand context, you need to ask the right questions. Be aware of potential misrepresentation of out of context quotes. We've seen it. Someone will pick quote from somewhere and say, it's this person that said it. Of course, sometimes it's usually true. The quote you will see is true, but it would speak from broader context. There was a time when Biden said that, African countries are poor, but then when he said it in a broader way, he said, oh, we need to support African countries because they're dealing with poverty, and that is the priority of the United States. But you see someone just picked it like that. Biden claims Africans are poor. Very out of context. Evaluate if the content aligns with established beliefs and facts. Of course, women in Africa are sidelined. It is not a debate. So if someone says, oh, in Ghana, women are more than 60% of number of member of parliament, I mean, you are going to check that because it doesn't really align with what we know about Africa. This also goes down to asking the right questions. I say the best thing you need is your critical mindset. What is this all about? Where is this information from? Why is it coming out now? when when did it start, circulating? Who is sharing it and how are they doing it? Sometimes I like to ask these questions. If you can ask these 5 questions and find the 5 answers, I think you're a fact checker. Like this one, someone said that this picture here is Nnamdi Kanu when they arrested him in Kenya. He said that this was the woman that helped to get him arrested. Um, you know, I don't have any bias for him. I mean, I don't care. So, but when I looked at the information, I see that he's not the one. So this is malinformation to damage his own image, you know. And I mean, so but you see that this is not him. This is a man. This happened in 2014. And this man was, of course, he was cheating with someone's wife, but have nothing to do with Nnamdi Kanu. Also pay attention to this. Sometimes people use emotional language. Oh, Nigerian Christians, you must arise. Oh, Nigerian Muslims, you must wake up. All this kind of thing, unfounded narratives, exaggerations and hyperbole. Oh, uh, you must vote for APC. They've done this, they've done that. Like good example, someone mentioned, they've given laptops. Where are the facts? You follow and you see they say 100 laptops, maybe barely two. Bias and one-sided views, people just, especially during elections. But most times, poor grammar. Again, you will see someone is saying that you should click this link to get money, but the grammar is so poor. This one, someone said Hilda Basi has gotten her certificate, and then at that time she was waiting for it. It wasn't out, but you see, this is the original image here. Someone shared her holding the certificate. She's not even the person. Someone used to edit and put her with the certificate. She didn't get the certificate till after, I think, 7 months. I think 3 to 5 months after, 5 to 7 months after uh, she was done with the cooking context. If you can spot it, you can verify it. One is verify the source. Like I said, you cross-reference your information. You can read a lot of fact-checking websites, Tubawa, and all of that. Investigate images. Uh, Previous sets have reached out to me. One or two people say, "Hey, can you share some tools and some technical ways I can be able to verify images and videos?" I've shared a lot of resources with them. This is not a technical session, but you can always reach out to me. I think I can share if you want to go a bit deeper with the tools to verify some of these things, even fact-checking tools. I can always, if you reach out to me whether on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, I can always share one or two helpful techniques with you that are more technical. Key takeaways: educate yourself, stay informed about current events. Very important. If you don't, I mean, most of the comments you made here is because you are aware of what is happening. Imagine that situation of that laptop. If you were not aware, you wouldn't know. Share responsibly. We have to take. I know we have our biases, but we need to check the information before we share. We also need to encourage media literacy. I mean, almost everyone here has some high level of literacy. And I am sure that here in electoral college, the knowledge is not just for us, it's for people around us, people in your community. You know those people. Report and flag misinformation. Do you know now that Facebook and Twitter have the report button for mis and disinformation? And the response is almost fast. They're even working on it to make it even faster. I think 2, 3 hours. Yes, very good. It's the end, but not the end. Spotting misinformation and disinformation is crucial in today's digital world. But by understanding their differences, recognizing the red flags, employing these ideas that we've talked about, we can surely push it back. Together, let's strive to be more informed. And, we need to have a critical thinking mindset to be able to do that. This is it. Some references for further reading, and you can either WhatsApp me, you can send me a message, shoot me an email for further conversation. Or on Twitter, we can shoot me a message or maybe you want to talk more on this, and I'm very open to talk about it. Thank you very much, guys. I'll be reading the chats to see your responses. And if there's any question, if there's time. Yeah, actually, there's time. Back to you, moderator. because I know we are always sticking to time here. So if there is any question, I mean, it's, the moderator would coordinate that. Hi, anyone here?
Jessica, are you there?
So we don't keep people. Folks, I
Yes,
know
I
folks.
am.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, great.
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay. So if you have any questions, as is our custom, you can just raise your electronic hand or drop it in the chat and we will be attending to them alternatively. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for the lecture. It was really enlightening and engaging. We appreciate you. Okay. I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet. Okay. Is it that the lecture is so self-explanatory that we don't have any questions? Okay, Salako, I've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, sir. Please, I want to thank you so much for the insightful lecture. You were able to eat all the meal bite on the head, and you actually grasped all that was said. So for me, I don't have any question, but I would like to appreciate you for this wonderful lecture, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Salako. That was kind words from you, and I'm glad that we had this wonderful conversation. Yes, thank
Okay, someone in the chat said he already answered all our questions during the discussion segment. The class is explicit enough. Another person said it's a real mind opener and assisted to change my perspective. Thanks a bunch, sir. And another student, Udo, said, okay, I think I have a question. Udo said, how can misinformation be effectively tackled without infringement on free speech / freedom of expression and the press? Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for this wonderful question, Udo. I thought that was brilliant. Yes, how? I'm telling you that already there is been a lot of effort from the government to put a bill, and I'm sure you know, on social media and regulation on social media, which we are totally against. We're totally against because that is not the right way to go about it. Because who would set the rules? Who are those to say this is what to say and this is not what to say? That is an infringement against freedom of speech, as you would know. And then some people might use it to tackle other people. We know how politics goes. But one of the most important things, which I think that is why the Electoral College is bringing this conversation into this curriculum, is for us to be able to be aware. Like I said, someone gives you a bag of beans, but half of it is bad. You can say, I'm not going to eat the beans. Let's just throw it away. You can pick and separate and then have that. So that's why we want people to be aware. That's why people need to have this media and information literacy so they can be able to pick from what is bad and poor. And there is this psychological notion that when you make something illegal, then that is when it becomes even more of a problem. Regulation is out of it. And if you ask me what is the way forward, is what we are having conversation here: media and information literacy, critical thinking, and all of that. Because that's how we learn. Yes. Thank you. That's just a sense of my mind here.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll take
and for
another question.
Okay, I think we have a question here. Okay, yeah, let's have it.
Okay, that's Umar. Umar Sadiq, I've asked you to unmute. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Umar Abubakar Sadiq, once again. I just want to comment that it's important that we take this class and all its takeaway very seriously. I always encourage people to maybe, like, if you're a yearly member in your various states, there are many courses on the yearly websites, particularly the one called yearly checks. You don't just go through the course. You are supposed to act on it by organizing a workshop, a program, or a training in your community on how people can verify, check, authenticate sources of information before spreading. Personally, I don't do this copy and paste something. Somebody will tell you, if you send this message to like 7 people, you'll become rich in the morning, you will do this. Zuckerberg want to give you, and the rest. It's because we are not informed. So this class now is an eye-opener. Then I want to add also that malinformation at times could be an agent whereby malwares could be sent or transferred to to devices. For instance, somebody on Twitter will tell you, don't know, you are not following the person. He will tell you, we are giving giveaway of 100 million for 50 people. Drop your number and your account details. And most times, you don't see that many people, you have a number that somebody else is using that number for nefarious activities. Elsewhere, you don't know, because you decide to drop your personal details, account details, and phone number in the social media space. So I think this class, it's an eye opener for all of us to understand that, yes, if we understand that this information I don't trust, you don't need to act on it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for this kind comment and then the contribution. I thought what you said was so brilliant. I mean, I was literally reacting on the yes. I mean, thank you. I mean, you explained it so brilliant. Just to wrap this, I just dropped the link. This is a deepware.ai. Is a tool for verifying AI videos, but this is just one. You can always reach out to me if you have more interest. In terms, I see someone asked about tools. Tools are so they're a different discussion, you know. That's why I didn't try to bring them here. But whether you're using tools, whether you're using your eyes or whatever it is, the foundation of fact checking is critical thinking. When you ask the right questions, you get the right answer. That is why someone commented here, say, if you are not informed, you will be deformed. I thought that was brilliant and funny at the same time. So guys, yeah, if there is no any other comment, and this issue of malware that you mentioned, so brilliant. I think a lot of people's phone has been hacked because of that, and then their personal information released to the public. And yeah, that was why I thought that was brilliant comment from you. Yeah, Ramot, you can always can reach out to me on that. We can talk more on that. I like people with interest in that, and then we can further the conversation. Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here once again.
All right, thank you so much. Apologies, I've been in and out because of network, but I've been following the chat box.
Clement asked a question.
What
question?
Okay.
Clement said, what question is that?
Question.
He said, if we agree that our politicians misinform the electors during electioneering, what would you propose to be the best means to hold them accountable? Oh, very good question, Clement. I'm really sorry I missed that. I was sorry, but I'm gonna have a meeting with ECOWAS sometime next month, but to discuss this question that you've asked. But over the past 2 years, we've been trying to answer this question, and 2 things we have done. One, we've been able to establish the Nigerian Fact Checkers Coalition, and now every presidential debate that took place during 2023, fact checkers are there to verify what these people are saying live during the events. See, that's another thing. And the findings are presented right there. And we've been having this initiative throughout whether it's online, whether it's offline, whether it's live, we go there. And then this coalition also has been launched in the Francophone and also now in Ghana's election. Now, initially, we don't used to have situation rooms, but now during elections, we have situation room during elections where we follow what people are saying and then counter this kind of information. And then lastly, we are the people, we in this conversation are the ones that we can hold them accountable. And one good comment that I think Samuel was the one who made that comment, you know, how he followed up on some politician saying something. If you are watching the news and a politician says something, if you can't do it, can you reach out to Silas and say, can we follow up on this, or any fact checker that you know? All of us have a responsibility to do a follow-up on what they are saying. And that, I think that's the only way, when we check their facts, that's the way we can hold them accountable. So aside the institutional efforts, also another thing is this. And then we have also, there's a lot of collaboration with tech companies like Facebook and Twitter. Now Facebook, if we do a fact check or we raise a flag about something, you will see under it, they will say this information is misleading. They label it so that they will not take it out, because people need to have their say. But they will label it and say you should be careful of this information. Even on Twitter now, they've started doing that. So I think it's a good progress. But I think the best is the one that all of us will be a part of it. Just like Samuel wonderfully told us that wonderful story. Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you so much, sir. I see another question. I don't know whether it's directed at you. He says, when do counter narrative come in? When do counter narratives come in? Must have been in response to one of your slides or to a comment.
Question not so clear for me. When to counter narratives?
When do counter narratives, maybe to counter a particular information that has been put out?
Or to be honest with you, Adeshola, and the person who asked this question, there is this popular say in fact checking that a misleading information goes double round the world before the fact, warms up to chase after it. There's always been the problem of how can we use the truth to counter the fact, and that's why you see the idea of fact checking comes in. And it's been a problem until this Ghana elections, where and TikTok too. Now we have a collaboration. Fact checking organizations are now fast having collaboration with these organizations to be able to collaborate and say, hey, when we do a fact check, can you give it more visibility? Can you attach it to this kind of narrative, so when people see the narrative, they can be able to point at it, to be able to say, oh, this is not true. But one of the most effective ways to counter this kind of information is by reporting it. Now, who asked this question? Prudence, now you have a responsibility that when you see something misleading, whether it's an AI or an elephant, whether it's a baby, do you report it? It's always that reporting button that we hardly ever do. And when we do that, it's also countering the negative narrative. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, very well said, sir. Very well said. I agree. Very well said. Okay. So, okay. I just saw another question coming in. What are potential punishments for misinformation via social media, especially in accordance with the Nigerian laws? What are potential punishments? What are potential punishments? What are the potential punishments for misinformation via social media, especially in accordance with our laws? Or what, in essence, what are our laws saying about misinformation and the punishment for it?
To be honest, I've been having conversation with lawyers and some people because we are pushing for non-regulation. To be honest, the Nigerian law has not been able to categorically say this is the issue or this is how we are going to deal with that. Of course, there is the conversation around defamation and all of those kind of things, but there isn't anything yet. There's no framework or law or even a bill. It was supposed to be the social media bill, but there was so much tide logging in where it will limit people's freedom of speech and all of that, that it has not gone anywhere. There's been a lot of counterforce against that bill. So directly there is nothing particularly as a punishment to mis and disinformation. Usually it's tied to either defamation and all of those kind of pre-existing laws, but there is not anything unique as to oh, if you spread the misinformation, this is the punishment. And justifiably because of this reason, we did typological analysis of the people that have been sharing misinformation from 2020 to 2024, and I'm telling you, 40% were politicians. So, and people in power would not want to make rules or laws that will catch them tomorrow. So that is why the conversation around what bill are we going to put against is a continuing conversation, even in advanced Western world. There is no stipulated because it's dicey and power is transient. Those in power today do not want to put a law that tomorrow might tie them down, or some of people will use it against them. So this conversation is still ongoing. But I think that it has to be a collaborative one between, of course, the Electoral College and other CSOs who would come together with this kind of conversation. The government has been saying, no, 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 we are the ones in charge. We are the ones to pull this together. And you know what happens at the end of the day is just internet shutdowns and, limited freedom of speech. But that's my own take on this and my little coins to the market. Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you so much. I do not see. Okay, well, questions keep coming. Someone just said, "What are future studies on the impact of freedom of expression and misinformation on society?" And what impact can it have on society, especially if it goes unchecked?
Oh wow! I would have sworn that you're giving me a PhD idea. But yeah, I mean, thank God you said future studies. What are the future studies, the impact of freedom of expression, and see, freedom of expression and the conversation of misinformation are like an oxymoron. It's like saying truth and lies bittersweet. you know, and it's like mixing oil inside water. It's an ongoing conversation, and it can have an impact on the society, especially if it goes unchecked. I know that it's even having it, but we have to have research like this to be able to know what are the nuances. If we say this is what someone should say or not say on social media, how does that infringe on freedom of expression? If we say, okay, let's allow people to say whatever they want, how does that contribute to the spread of misleading content? And then how does that infringe on democracy, polarity in the society? So it's an ongoing conversation, because when you look at this topic that you have raised here, you will see that amidst freedom of expression, there is culture, there is religion, there is tribe, there is regions, and all of that is contextual. When you look at that, and then when you now bring the conversation of misinformation again in the same society, you would see that, oh wow, how do we even define what misinformation is? We had a meeting with Meta about language misinformation, and they had nothing to say about it. When some people said that there is a misinformation, there is a whole Hausa community, there is a Hausa Facebook community, there is a Yoruba Facebook community, and they were not aware of it. So also on TikTok, there is Hausa TikTok community, Yoruba TikTok. So the conversation is so broad, but I am gonna copy this idea now in case you see me writing about it. Please don't be mad. I thought study was a brilliant idea. Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Silas Jonathan. It's such an interesting class. And I'm really glad that, you put your heart all out there, also encouraging us to keep the work going. It's an ongoing conversation and it's a collaborative effort. So I'd like to say thank you. Class, please let's send warm wishes and thank Mr. Silas Jonathan for a very brilliant delivery of his class today. We've heard so much, we've learned so much, we've engaged, and our minds have been opened. I think I know that someone is asking for your social media handle, sir, so they can engage you further beyond this class. So if you could help, you could put it in the chat box so that, or maybe they will get it from their various admins in their respective studio political party groups. But once again, I'd like to say thank you for joining us today in this class. I'll hand over to DED Lisa now to say thank you on behalf of the college for such an exciting class. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Adeshala. Thank you, Mr. Silas. On behalf of the college, it's always a pleasure having you. Your class is so easy to understand and it's so realistic. Thank you so much. I'm sure the students gained a whole lot of knowledge this evening. So thank you. I would allow them on mute and just say thank you before we allow you to take your leave.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
God bless
Thank
you and
sir.
your class.
Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you,
God
sir.
bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Such a wonderful presentation.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. God bless
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much, sir.
God bless you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Thank you
sir.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
sir.
sir.
Thank you so much,
Wonderful
sir.
class. Thank you.
Thank you for the
Wonderful
wonderful
day.
class, sir. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank
So
you too, and it was really interesting. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, sir. All right, so thank you, everyone. I'm sure you've seen the announcements in your respective particular groups, party groups, I beg your pardon, for your election timetable next week. So let's all prepare for that. And I'm sure the projects too. The deadline is 15th of January. So please take note of that. The reports should get to us by 15th of January. If you have any questions, you can always ask your team leads. And if they need to escalate it to us, it will get to my table. Thank you all. Have a good evening and classes continue tomorrow. Thank you, Adeshala, again. That was great moderating. Good night.